What do you think?
I can't believe Mom wrote a book before we did. And it's a little trashy. Mom has expressed herself. We should nurture her. Let's kiss boys, binge and purge, rock and roll! You're not getting out till we're 16.
That scene from The Simpsons is a little like Pixar's Inside Out, isn't it? Like, Lisa has a bunch of emotions, which are all shaped like her, just like Riley's parents. My last video was pretty emotionally heavy for me when I brought up my uncle's suicide. So let's try making this video a little more lighthearted. I'd like to compare examples of fictional characters being cut into pieces. Not literally like this, but figuratively. I want to see characters divided into their parts. The original Teen Titans show gets right into what I mean. Raven, the human-demon hybrid from a parallel dimension, has a subconscious realm where Beast Boy and Cyborg get trapped.
Who booby-traps a mirror?
Maybe it wasn't a trap. Maybe it's Raven's way home. Maybe this is where she's from.
Definitely creepy enough.
On their journey, they meet versions of Raven which are actually her separated emotions. You've got Strawberry Raven, who's super giddy, Licorice Raven, who's always sad and scared, Rad Minty Raven, let's see, Nerdy Lemon Raven, Generic Chocolate Raven, Smiley Plum Raven, Sleepy Orange Raven, and Raven's rage, causing a ruckus in her subconsciousness in the form of her father firing lasers everywhere. The real Raven wants to handle this all on her own.
The mirror you found is for meditation. It's a portal into my mind, not a toy!
But just doesn't have the wherewithal, even with Beast Boy and Cyborg as backup.
Even with your help, I cannot defeat him.
So call for backup. What about all those other yous?
Yeah, the green one kinda kicked butt.
It still wouldn't be enough. None of my other sides have the kind of power we need.
Not alone, but what about together? They're all part of who you are, right?
The real Raven has to round up all her other emotions and combine into the super powerful Vanilla Raven, so she can turn her rage into Cherry Raven, which she combines with too, sort of accepting it. Now that she's all brought together in her subconsciousness, Raven can hang out with the rest of the team. The cohesion of the Teen Titans depended on cohesion within one of its members.
Raven is complicated. There is much about her we are not meant to understand.
Let me break out a book. In Man and His Symbols, Carl Jung describes dreams as being messages to interpret. The general function of dreams, he says, is to try to restore our psychological balance by producing dream material that reestablishes in a subtle way the total psychic equilibrium. Raven's subconscious realm seems pretty dreamlike to me, and Vanilla Raven is plenty equilibrated. What message are we supposed to interpret from that episode? Carl Jung says dreams may sometimes announce certain situations long before they actually happen. A few seasons later, Raven's father totally shows up to rule the universe.
But you shall soon be defeated by your own personal demons.
So Cherry Raven was subconscious foreshadowing about what was going to come. Raven defeats her father by turning into Vanilla Raven, showing how she's effectively reintegrated his trauma. Let's check out another cartoon. In the animated Jackie Chan adventures, the evil fire demon Shendu was stuck in a statue by splitting its power into 12 talismans. Shendu wants its talismans back, so it's not trapped in a statue anymore.
It is essential that I have all 12 talismans.
So it's sort of the reverse of Raven's situation. Jackie Chan is collecting talismans so Shendu can't reintegrate its parts and become Vanilla Raven Shendu or whatever. One of those talismans is a tiger. The tiger is supposed to balance you in a broad Taoist sense.
Within each and every one of us lies conflicting forces. Yin and yang, light and dark, good and evil.
balance? That's not even a real power.
Actually, it cuts Jackie in two. One Jackie is a whiny weenie.
Uncle! What is it?
I stepped on a bug! Oh!
The other Jackie is evil.
You're the side who ate my candy? You're evil! Evil!
Not evil, just lacking sound judgment, without his good side to guide him.
Yeah, sure, Uncle, sure. The show calls them yin and yang Jackie, light and dark Jackie. But Carl Jung might call these ego and shadow Jackie. At first, this division is terrible. Evil Jackie gets along with the bad guys after he steals their accessories, and he agrees to nab all the talismans and put Shendu back together. Weenie Jackie is helpless to stop him.
The bad me stole the talismans!
You gotta stop him!
I tried scolding him, but...
I mean, stop him? You know,
Oh, no. Fighting is not nice.
But when their niece Jade gets kidnapped, the Jackies start fighting shadow ninjas together as a team with 4 fists. Raven literally merged with her separated bits, but Jackie fights side by side with himself. But the Jackies are recombined when Shendu gets all its talismans back. Vanilla Raven Shendu is a giant buff dragon fursona thing, which flies away to destroy all Asia. How will the good guys track it down?
I need more information, a symbol, a name, anything.
Toru, the sumo wrestler type bad guy, switches sides and becomes a main character on the good team to reveal some evil plans.
The demon's name, Shendu.
Then Jackie and Jade jump on Shendu and start ripping talismans out of it until it explodes. Jackie Chan Adventures has more moving parts than Raven's Subconscious Realms episode. 2 characters are split into pieces, Jackie and Shendu, and parts of Jackie can work for the bad guys, just like the good guys can use Shendu's talismans. And bad guy Toru becomes a good guy. Raven solved her problem by consolidating her baggage. Jackie solves his problems by being in a state of flux and fluxing up his enemies a little too.
See? What have we learned?
Magic must defeat magic.
Carl Jung sounds a little like this when he mentions the Cold War and the Iron Curtain. See, man's symbols aren't just for dreams. Jung says groups of, primitives? Bushmen? These aren't nice things to call people, are they? Oh well. They're much more in tune with their symbols. Civilized modern man, he says, does not understand how his rationalism has put him at the mercy of the psychic underworld. The communists have a mythology, which the West looks down on as an illusion, because we are unable to see that we have such a mythology too. When Jackie steals Shendu's talismans, he's borrowing noxious power, and bad guys can borrow parts of him right back. The sad truth, Jung says, is that man's life consists of a complex of inexorable opposites. Day and night, birth and death, happiness and misery, good and evil. We are not even sure that one will prevail against the other, that good will overcome evil or joy defeat pain. Life is a battleground. It always has been and always will be. If it were not so, existence would come to an end. Oh boy, I'm getting emotionally heavy again, aren't I? Let's find some more fiction. Is Red Dwarf a show people talk about online nowadays? It should be. It's a classic British comedy about Lister, the only survivor of a space disaster, stranded on the spaceship Red Dwarf, with Rimmer, a hologram of his least favorite person ever. Cat, a guy evolved from his cat, and Holly, the spaceship's cheeky AI. Also, a robot called Crichton joins them a few seasons in. The show actually has quite a few episodes where characters are divided or meet other versions of themselves. So just to be upfront with you, Red Dwarf is what I'm talking about for the rest of the video. Carl Jung might point directly to the Season 2 episode Parallel Universe to describe his notion of an anima and animus.
Coexisting realities. Two bodies who share the same space but are unaware of each other's existence.
Sounds like my parents in bed.
The boys from the dwarf, the animuses, meet their animas in a parallel universe's girls from the dwarf.
Hello, I'm Hilly.
Hello, I'm Holly.
Hello, Holly.
Hello, Hilly.
Although Cat gets a dog.
Better make myself look big.
Male Rimmer's interaction with female Rimmer forces him to reconsider his approach to women.
You hypnotized the girl into going out with you?
Yes, I gave her the old, there's something in your eye technique. Fixed her with the mesmer stare. And bingo, she agreed to come on a date.
Hang on. Haven't you got something in your eye?
You're trying to hypnotize me, aren't you?
No, of course not.
Well, stop staring then.
I'm not staring.
What was all that about?
That is the most awful woman I've ever met.
She's you. She's absolutely repugnant. She's the female equivalent of you.
Male and female listers get along a little bit better, so they have too many drinks together and end up shagging. I guess that's one way to integrate with your anima, but male lister comes out pregnant, so I don't recommend it.
Ollie, tell me this isn't true.
I'm afraid it is. No.
Twins? No way, Rimmer, not twins.
Oh, yes, big, bonny, strapping, bouncing boys they were as well. Huge heads.
In the Season 5 episode, Demons and Angels, Red Dwarf's triplicating machine splits it into a good Red Dwarf and an evil Red Dwarf. In order to put the original Red Dwarf back together, the gang needs to get the triplicating machines from their good and evil portions.
These guys are supposed to be part of us? I don't buy it.
These are our higher selves. They are the people we could have become if all the negative aspects of our characters were removed. This is my guess. Your mind records everything. Everything you see, hear, every word you read, every conversation. It's all stored in your subconscious. Somehow, our higher selves have access to that knowledge.
Look, I'm getting itchy feet here. You got the gizmo. Let's scram before the Mad Monk brothers rope us into an evening of philosophical musings and self-flagellation.
It's not quite that simple. This triplicator has only half the vital components. We need the second triplicator from the low ship.
Collecting the triplicators almost continues Raven's merge with all your aspects theme, but the characters' aspects themselves can be killed off. The evil lister takes control of the original lister and makes him kill the good lister and attack the rest of the gang, until Cat blows up evil lister. I think that destructive approach began way back in the first season's last episodes.
Boy, this is gonna be fun.
Lister wants to replace the hologram of Rimmer with a hologram of his crush Kachansky. Searching for Kachansky's hologram disk gives Lister a space flu so bad his room starts raining fish. It's like being trapped in a dream, which Carl Jung would like to interpret, because he's eventually stuck alongside two strange versions of himself, his confidence.
Hey, it's the king! Mr. Beautiful!
And his paranoia.
Isn't that a urine stain on the front of your trousers?
Rimmer doesn't like these folks and thinks they should be gotten rid of.
Lister, you're still sick. These two are symptoms of your disease. Until they're gone, you won't be better.
He makes my life one big, humiliating, cringe-making, guilt-ridden hell.
Now, stab him! Stab him! Stab him! Quick, stab him! You haven't met Stab him.
Lister gets along quite well with his confidence, though, so they keep hanging out and look for Kachansky's hologram disk together on the outside of the Red Dwarf. Then Confidence gives Lister some great news. He killed Paranoia, because it's no good for him to hear all that negativity. Why, Lister should know he can do anything. He doesn't even need a space helmet.
Hey, oxygen's for losers. Come on. I need oxygen. You don't need anything, King. You're the king.
Lister disagrees, and to prove him wrong, Confidence takes off his own helmet and explodes.
No!
So, unlike Raven and Jackie Chan, Lister doesn't need to merge with his aspects or take control of them. He can just destroy or otherwise abandon them. At the end of the episode, Lister tries generating Kachansky's hologram, but Rimmer pulled a quick one on him. Now there are 2 Rimmers.
You think you had it bad before, Lister? Now you've got it in stereo, baby. Welcome aboard, Rimsey. Nice to be here, Mr. Rimmer, you son of a gun.
They're not different aspects of Rimmer, an evil Rimmer and a weenie Rimmer. They're both just Rimmer. Don't you think you could be great friends with a copy of yourself? In the next episode, the Rimmers get along pretty well, partly because they both hate Lister so much.
The point is, you've always stopped me being successful. That's a scientific fact.
Rimmer, you can't blame me for your lousy life.
Oh, yes, I can.
In the end, you can't turn round and say, I'm sorry, I buggered up my life, it's all Lister's fault.
Well, I'm not, am I? I'm moving out of Slob City and into Successville.
But eventually, the 2 Rimmers start pushing each other harder and harder to be the best Rimmer they can be. And as a result, they become Evil Rimmer and Weenie Rimmer. Neither one of them wants to be the weenie one, so this develops into screaming stuff just to get under the other's skin.
Keep your voice down. I'm not going to stand here and take this abuse.
Oh, yes, when the going gets tough, the tough go and have a little cry in the corner. You've got a sponge for a backbone. No wonder Father hated you.
Interpreting this episode the Jungian way, I'm sort of unsettled. This is a display of Rimmer's self-disgust, a manifestation of his mental illness.
You better watch what you say about my mummy. I'm a grown man and I'm not going to accept it.
Now grow up, Mr. Gazpacho!
Mr. What?
I said Mr. Gazpacho, Deffy!
That is the most obscenely hurtful thing.
Good!
Gazpacho. That's a weird way to mock someone, isn't it? The episode ends with one copy of Rimmer about to be deleted, confessing to Lister why Gazpacho soup is so wounding to him. Rimmer once asked for Gazpacho soup to be heated up, even though it's meant to be served cold.
I'd been invited to the captain's table. 6 officers and me. They called me Arnold. We had Gazpacho soup for starters. I didn't know Gazpacho soup was meant to be served cold. I called over the chef, and I told him to take it away and bring it back hot. He did. The looks on their faces still haunt me today. I thought they were laughing at the chef, when all the time they were laughing at me as I ate my piping hot Gazpacho soup.
Rimmer's subconsciousness beats himself up with so much embarrassment. It would be painful to watch if he blamed himself.
Oh, come on, anyone could have made that mistake.
If only they'd mentioned it in basic training. Instead of climbing up and down ropes and crawling on your elbows through tunnels, if only just once they'd said Gazpacho soup is served cold, I could have been an admiral by now. Instead of a nothing.
Once Rimmer is done explaining, he tells Lister to delete him. But Lister reveals he'd already deleted the other copy of Rimmer. The remaining Rimmer is humiliated, trapped with the Gazpacho shame he'd hoped to leave with his copy.
You see, I wanted to find out about Gazpacho soup, and I knew you wouldn't tell me.
Well, of course I wouldn't tell you. You'd make my life a hell with Gazpacho soup jokes for the rest of my life.
Rimmer, I promise, I swear, I will never ever mention this conversation again. And when I swear, I mean it.
All right. You're a bit of a slob, Lister, you know, but when it comes down to it, you keep your word.
Lister, in a way, tricked Rimmer into integrating with himself, sharing his indignity and living with it.
Super.
But Rimmer's self-destructive mental health problems are far from over. They climax again soon in the episode Better Than Life, when Rimmer's in a dreamlike virtual reality game where he can do anything he imagines.
Oh.
And he ends up burying himself and the gang to be eaten by fire ants. Rimmer is his own abusive personality, and as long as it provokes the laugh track, he can't leave it behind.
We're gonna die, and it's all my fault!
Carl Jung gives a few examples like this, where a person's dreams shout, "You are your own problem." It was hard for my patient, who had very clear ideas about her own personality, to realize that the dream was telling her about her own power complex and her hidden motivations. Unconscious influences that had more than once led to disagreeable rows with her friends. She had always blamed others for these, not herself. Raven's subconscious realm is a place she can put herself back together. Jackie Chan is empowered when things fall apart and swap sides. But Red Dwarf's Gazpacho episode externalizes an interior struggle which never really goes away.
Gazpacho soup!
Rimmer is angrier with himself than Raven with her father or Jackie with Shendu. I wonder what my uncle shouted at himself. What was my uncle's gazpacho? I said I wanted this episode to be lighthearted, and it didn't quite turn out that way. Jung describes this blurry boundary between fiction, mental illness, and religion, and when we blur it all the way to Cartoon Network and Kids WB and the BBC, it's easy to overthink. That's all I do here at Thinkster. Smoke me a kipper. I'll be back for breakfast.